welcome to the Tansson Talks show. I'm Brandon, the host of the show, and I'm so excited to get into today's episode. And so for today, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest here today, Nalin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to have you. And in case you don't know, this is actually episode 100 of my show.
Oh wow, I'm the 100th episode. That's kind of lit. Yeah, I like that. Way to cap up 100 episodes. So yeah, pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so excited to, like I said, have you on for number 100. It was definitely a long journey to get here, but I'm so excited, like I said, to spend this time with you. And how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Really good today. I mean, it's in the midst of final season right now, the way when we're recording. So just working on a couple of those essays and finishing up those last few classes. But yeah, other than that, it's pretty good. Pretty good week. Pretty good day. So.
But nevertheless, I hope that you have a great experience, like with your final exams, and finish out the semester strong, so you can enter into this upcoming spring semester confident.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, and if you're able to go ahead and introduce yourself for the watching and listening audience here today before we get started.
Yeah, of course, of course. So for those who don't know, my name is Nalin Theodore. I am a current junior at Christopher Newport University, and I am majoring in communications as well as minoring in leadership studies. I'm a part of the presidential leadership program there at CNU. Or not most of you, but some of you might know me on the field as one of the members of the men's ultimate Frisbee team here at CNU. I'm a pretty good player. Been playing for a little bit, and I'm also on the fundraising chair for them. So I'm trying to do whatever I can to raise funds for our team. Who at one point last year we beat two nationally ranked D3 teams, which is very good for us. As other than that, I'm also part of club field hockey, which I do on the side, as well as leadership ambassadors, which is another program where we assist students in the PLP program or entering into PLP, help wherever we can. And yeah, and also other than that, I'm a huge fan of the show Ninjago, and that's basically me.
I absolutely love that, and I'm so excited, like I said, for us to dive right into this.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've been really looking forward to being on a podcast. It's been a dream, but yeah, for sure, I'm ready.
Well, I'm so glad that you're able, like I said, to help pursue your dream. But I did want to start off by asking you about your time right now with men's ultimate Frisbee for Christopher Newport University. And so, how has the season been thus far?
Our season has been really well. We've have a lot of good talent coming in. So Frisbee, ultimate Frisbee is considered a club sport around a lot of colleges, but that by no means does that mean that there's lack of competition. There are a lot of good competitors out there, all across Division 3, Division 1 schools. I'm happy to say that this year we look like a really good team this year. Like we have another chance at nationals. That we fell short in the semifinals last year to a really good Richmond team who went on to go into the semifinals in last year. But this year, we've fended off some pretty good teams in the fall. Fall season is kind of like uh, the season where it not necessarily matters, but it's kind of like introducing people to the sport, sort of, and seeing how things carry. And I think our freshmen and their entire defense and offense have been really good. We just need to continue working on learning from our mistakes and snapping back to it. But overall, our coaching staff with Coach Ben, shout out to Coach Ben, Nolan, our captains, all that they've done. The season's gone really well. Placed in high in a couple of tournaments. There have been some here and there drops, but overall, our season has been really well, and we're really excited to come back and to spring camp and get that really started again. But yeah, for sure, it's been a pretty good season so far, and hopefully we can capitalize on it.
I love that, and I definitely hope that you are able to capitalize on it. And since you're a junior right now, have you been a part of it for your whole duration here at CNU?
All right, so there's a really good story of me joining Frisbee. I had no intention of doing so. So coming to CNU, I I ran. I played basketball and soccer. Those were my favorite sports when I was younger. But I mainly ran track in my later years. Um, and my love of track, I was good at the sport, but I wasn't insanely good to go Division One. Um, and I didn't know what I wanted to do athletically other than being a student. I knew I wanted to do something, but I wasn't sure. But so my first time when I stepped on CNU, and I really liked the campus, I had offers from other schools, but like Eastern Mennonite, had Shenandoah, Mary Baldwin, but I didn't want to run track there because of their campus life. It's not because they're bad schools. I didn't think I would mesh well there. Um, but I got to CNU. I was like, I really like it here. Maybe I'll try out for track and just do club running first. So by fate, our first few meets in this fall were canceled. And because of that, I was like a little like, what am I even going to do? I don't even have like a sports season or anything. And this was by like beginning of, no, it was near the end of September. And I was like, this is the time where I'm usually at. I've done three cross country meets. I've done something, but I haven't really done anything. I've been in my dorm working, but at the end of the day, after all these practices, I don't have any events. So what am I going to do? So it happened by fate. Like I was walking back from my 8 a.m. for my stats class, and I walked by this tent, and it was women's ultimate frisbee, and I'm like, oh, I knew ultimate frisbee a little bit because my uncle played it in college at not Mary William and Mary, and I knew somewhat of it. So I looked up CNU's men's team. Found out at the time they were 12th in D3 in 2022. They were coming off their best season yet, uh, and above it all, they were having a lot of fun. Celebrations, the whole everything I wanted in a sport. Something that, and then I looked at the practice times. They were manageable. They were all at night, so I didn't have to, like in high school, it would practices would always be after school, and that was kind of a rough time because that took away lots of primary study time for me. But because it was later in the day, like around 7:30 or 9 o'clock, when it was dark out and with the stadium lights, it made it a lot easier to manage. So I would be able to go to those afternoon classes, get work done, and then feel like I can exercise, shower, and go to sleep, and that would be like a fulfilling day for me. So it was cool. So then, yeah, I texted in their little IM leagues, which is not even their own group chat because they use Slack, which is like a business thing. And then one guy was like, "Yeah, the practice is tonight. If you want to come." And I showed up. I see about 7 or 8 discs flying apart from each other, and I just get nervous because I don't know anybody on the team except my guy Nate. Shout out to Nate. He's 6'6". Of course, you're gonna know someone if they're 6'6". And uh, but yeah, um, but yeah, just seeing that, and then I would never forget it. This guy named Ryan McDonald. He said, "Hey, welcome to the team. Were you the guy that shot?" Yeah, and then rest is history. Nalin Theodore was born. Um, uh, but yeah, picked up the sport a little slower than most, but then after a little bit, that's it. Really became one of those fun sports to come to, and that I've become really good at, and hopefully be able to play for as long as I can at the highest level.
I love that story, and
Yeah.
I like how even though you didn't start off with it, you were at least athletic before coming to CNU, but now that you're able to be a part of the sport, I mean, I think that's so great. And now that you've embraced it, and hopefully met a lot of great teammates.
Yeah, I'm very close with a lot of those teammates. That's another thing that when you go to college, you're gonna meet a lot of people, and it's about who you meet too. that really can drive your experience. I'm glad to meet those Frisbee guys because they came from all sorts of majors, all sorts of backgrounds. We have like different channels. Like we have a Nova channel, we have a grubbing channel in our Slack. We have like all these other things. But yeah, I've made a lot of good friends through there. Heard me mention Nate before. He's a good friend of mine. Shout out to some of my freshman recruits. My guy Cooper. Me and him are really close. If you ever see my Insta, you might see him and I are. He's number 87 for us. We're constantly fooling around, having fun with each other. And then I met a lot of good people like Coach Ben Slade. Shout out to him for sure. He's a good mentor. He's not like your typical coach, which I really liked about the whole coaching situation. He never really yelled at players, made them feel bad. I know some coaches like doing that, and it works in some gaming scenarios, but this coach makes the player think about what they did wrong and then logically walk them through how they're going to fix it. And that type of coaching is something that I think needs to be more present in communities. And another thing with that, fact about Ultimate Frisbee that is very cool is that there is no referees. There's only observers. So if there's a foul on a play, you get to talk it out with someone. And the fact that you get to have a conversation with an opponent is sort of cool because it's like, yeah, you both want to win, obviously, but you're able to come to some sort of consensus that you weren't cheated out of anything and one team, but the better team won. So yeah, being a part of that community is really elevate my standards of honesty and integrity. It's just been a really good place for me to be for sure. And CNU is the place to do it.
I love that, and I love that you've been able to find a home and find a sport that you like, and as I continue with your athletic journey. And so, before I sort of go back to the beginning, I did want to ask too. So, how would you say that this is different from some of the other sports that you've been a part of? You mentioned that you've participated in basketball and soccer before, but you were a really big track person, um, and so how would you say that your enjoyment of it is for how would you say that your enjoyment of Ultimate Frisbee is in comparison, and then even your mindset around it?
I mean, yeah. So see, track, as much as I was good at for the most part, it's an individual sport, which was good for me because I felt like I did put in the work, I did it, but I felt like sometimes in races it would be too much for me, and I would just be not performing as much as I thought I would, especially in when it was prime game time scenarios, and I didn't really have anybody to lean on except my own legs. So that's kind of one of the thing. So basketball is a good team sport. But again, referees, like I said, there are things that happen that you think happen, but you can't talk it out. You get a foul. If you argue, you get a technical. And that means basically you get one strike and you might be thrown out of the game. Um, Soccer, again, similar things with that, but yeah, it was just more of a frustration. With basketball, there's 5 guys on the field usually. With soccer, there's 11 guys, but there's 4 main ones that you really pass to. And then but Frisbee, there's 7 guys on the field. Anyone can make a difference. And it's not only the people on the field, it's the people on the sidelines, because sideline is a big energy mover. So the more hype a person is, if you're communicating to the people on the sidelines what to do, the energy, the camaraderie, if all those cylinders are clicking, nothing can stop you. And that's what I really liked. And because of that, some teams have been down by 4 points, which is a lot, and have come back to win games. And just the camaraderie of it all is just what makes the sport really special.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, hearing the differences, and then also sort of how the game itself, or rather the sports themselves, rather, are even different in how you enjoy it and how you appreciate it. It's definitely really fascinating.
Yeah, and but yeah, like if anyone listening to the podcast, seeing you, if you're like a former athlete and you have places that you don't think you can really continue your athletic career, try out Ultimate Frisbee. You won't regret it. It's been a lot of fun for me. You travel places, you can play anywhere. Winchester, uh, Tidewater community here. They have places at Nova. They have places all around the country, and if you're good enough, you can play in the UFA, which is you get paid on a contract to play frisbee, which is really cool. And but yeah, I would definitely just give it a look, and yeah, for sure.
Out of curiosity, would you want to potentially join the UFA in the future?
100%. I would definitely. I know that there's things that, me personally, that I do have a couple of weaknesses on. Um, in regards to being playing at that level. Uh, Ultimate Frisbee, you got to be pretty consistent with it. I'm still learning a little bit, but maybe perhaps if it's not the UFA that's looking high for me, maybe a probably a top level club in the area. When I'm a lot older, my summers this year might be a little booked due to education stuff, but I might be playing Ultimate here and there. But UFA play, I would love to play for sure in the UFA. I know I can definitely run with those guys if I put my work into it, and it would work out. If my pursuit for being a teacher works out, because that would be income coming in um, during my summer weeks that I'm not teaching. So that it all works out. But yeah, that would definitely be a big dream of mine. Being able to say that I play a professional wacky sport that no one's ever heard about. So yeah,
Well, that's amazing, and I definitely, let's said, I heard that you mentioned that you are, in pursuit to be a teacher. I definitely want to, yeah, come back to that in a moment because I definitely want to hear, all about that. But starting from the beginning, though, when you were in high school, if not earlier, and trying to figure out like what you wanted to do after high school and which colleges to attend, like how was that process? Was CNU always a part, like in your mind for one of your top schools?
so CNU was kind of like an on and off school that I wanted to go to, kind of. So one of my I guess someone I looked up to in my youth group, which is kind of like all these 13 through 18-year-olds hang out for church. He went to Christopher Newport University and he played soccer there. His name was Alex Risco. I knew his mom and dad; they were good parents. He was always good to me. He was always a good role model, athletic kid, great kid. And I knew that he went to Christopher Newport University, and that's about it. And I was like, oh, I guess I can apply to Christopher Newport University because if Alex's go there, maybe I can too. But in the beginning, it was looking like I was just going surface level about the sweatshirts I had in my closet. I had a VCU sweatshirt in my closet, so I was like, "Oh, I'll go to VCU." I had a George Mason closet because my mom went to VCU, not VCU, GMU for a little bit for a master's. So it was like, "Oh, maybe I'll go to GMU." But like looking around in the area, I didn't really gauge what I wanted yet, and I was still in that I want to play a sport here mentality. So Shenandoah was kind of at the top of the list for a little bit because I did get an offer from them, and they did have a physician's assistant program that I first wanted to pursue. And it was more about me being a STEM major first and where I would be in the best position to. So I was just touring wherever I could. I applied to 11 colleges, got accepted to 10. So yeah, so it was a long process. It was schools like I applied to Virginia Tech. I I applied to Shenandoah, like I said before, Randolph Macon, George Mason, VCU, um, DePaul University, Eastern Mennonite University, a lot of the Virginia schools. There's a lot more that I applied to. But out of all those schools, I really didn't know which one. But there was like a little bit of a time where I had to figure out what exactly I wanted in a college. Did I want it public or did I want a smaller one? Oh, I got JMU was also one. JMU, when I went to the bigger schools, the thing is, yeah, they had really nice facilities, but I thought this was way too big for me. And I really wouldn't do well in that environment because that doesn't remind me as much as home, where it's like, although it's big, my high school was big, it had 2,000 people. It was like a smallish town that was kind of built in. I don't think that a bigger college at the time, at least, would be good for me. So then I went to Randolph Macon, but they didn't have a track team. So I was like, maybe I don't want to go to Randolph Macon, which is, again, don't ever do what I do. You can always find something to do at any college. But they did have a good, they gave me a good scholarship after my interview that was pretty promising um, to go into. But however, the campus was a little bit too small for my liking. So there was that. And then lastly, I toured CNU like in February or January of 2022, so close to when I was supposed to decide. And walking on the campus, I just was like, wow, this is like beautiful, like really, really beautiful. Like there's the dome, there's the fountain. And I knew that one of my neighbors, my neighbor, who actually was like, he guided me through elementary school, middle school, high school. Like he told me everything about everything. He went to CNU. So it was kind of, and he was a year above me. So it was kind of cool to be like, yeah, I've been with this person and he's mentored me to each and every single place and what to know from all these years. So talking to him, he was also in the bio majoring program and he was loving it. And but I knew him to be a student that first struggled a little bit in high school, but then got it really do it well. And that my parents and I really had a lot of discussion about it. And it's like, if David, this student that has once been here, is now doing well here, seeing you can definitely help me in that aspect. They really care about people here. Presidential leadership program was also a big part of my reason why I'm here, because my scholarship really helped me. And I encourage people to, if they really want to be a part of CEDU, do apply for the PLP program, even though you do not think you're a leader. Hopefully that program will help you immensely with connections and finding finding your people for sure. Um, but yeah, it was the campus life, the amount of things that there seemed to be, the service opportunities, dining the dining food was decent enough, and it would just seemed like it worked out. Everything was close by. You didn't have to go far distances to get food. Um, and CNU took care of first years really well. They had move-in day. They had a whole week where they can get students situated. It made them feel like you were cared for. And that was one of the biggest things for me, because if I don't have a university that cares for me as a person, then I wouldn't want to be there. So that's another thing that I really liked about CNU. It may not be, again, it took a little bit to get adjusted to. Like I had my struggles, but I think being at CNU especially really helped me mature into the person I am, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I love that, and definitely like some brief comments, like going in chronological order. First of all, it's great that your sweatshirts that you had in your closet helped start off your was it your college potential college list. I definitely know that colleges are really great at merchandising, so I'm glad that I was able to get you a head start there. But I'm really glad that your youth group was able to help out in that regard and early stages, and then the fact that your neighbor, someone that you looked up to, went to seeing you and helped sort of guide you into this new part of your life. I mean, I think it's just such a fitting just a fitting way for you to start off a new chapter. I mean, I think it's just sort of meant to be.
Yeah, don't lie. I'm not lying to anybody here, but it wasn't pretty all the time. But this is where I'm meant to be for sure. Um, But and I also like to shout out the new president for sure, President Bill Kelly, for really taking initiative, and because he a big part of what CNU. A lot of people criticize this, but I'm definitely going to be one of those first people to address it, about CNU. Um, it's because CNU was accused of bulldozing over property of those of Black communities in order to expand their university. And President Kelly made us face that reality. As sad as it was, he wanted to really pay back to that community and really understand why these things happened and what we can do to avoid them from happening. And because I remember my first year, no shade at any other old presidents, I didn't feel as welcome as I did now. And I'm because of Bill Kelly's leadership and everything. He's very personable. He has these Wednesday walks where you can talk to him and other people. He's very opening to criticism. He wants to really build a relationship with every student that wants one. He'll work for you and he'll be your biggest supporter. Like, he is amazing, and the fact that he's trying is shows a lot to the students rather than being in his office and just looking over his grand plan. That's not who he is, and he's a very humble guy. And seeing the mix of new people, like diversity, the new diversity here at CNU, it is adjustment to some of the students for sure, to see the newfound diversity at CNU. But give it five or 4 years, like CNU will definitely be one of those vibracious campuses that um, it can be. But already I feel like the inclusion and diversity have gone up, and that's represented in our um, almost half of our Frisbee team being from those backgrounds. So I'm really, really happy about that.
I'm so glad that I mean that one that that you love your university and that you have pride in it, and especially the work that President Kelly is doing to revitalize the campus and and make it more of a community open for everyone. And so I love that you've been able to to speak to that and that you're seeing change in real time.
Yeah, for sure. And change does take time for sure. And you just got to learn how to adapt to it. And sometimes it isn't pretty. Like, you're just going to have to go through the growing pains. But yeah, I'm glad that change is definitely coming to CNU, and we can definitely see it. And if anyone wants to keep joining the initiative, by all means, please apply.
I love that, and I love that that the Peninsula's University is going to continue to to grow as the years progress, and I'm so excited to see how far that it's able to go and progress, and no longer just be a sort of hidden secret, so to speak. And I did want to ask you a bit though about how was it for you when you first moved in, and got settled? Like, how was that adjustment period going from being in your town, and if you're able to remind us, where you are from before seeing you, but how it was adjusting, and how long would you say it took you before you're able to find a sort of new normal within your your new day to day life.
Let's see, that's a good question. So again, I'm from Manassas, Virginia, which is in Northern Virginia. It's a small town. It's like an urban and rural, where urban and rural meet together. So it's like a city-ish town, um, where a lot of people. There's a lot of yeah. There's one high school, there's one middle school. So the people you went to middle school with are probably going to high school with you. So it's that type of community, and moving in from the beginning, I thought it was going to be hooray, this is like I'm an adult now, sort of, and I can't wait for independence, and I can't wait for this. But adjusting to being in charge, not academically, I would say. academically, I think I was prepared for the workload and classes, but that's different for everyone. It was more about the social aspect of college that I really, really needed work on, and I really didn't quite understand how it worked yet. Uh, because my entire life, I've spent either making friends in church and hanging out with group and those would be my friends, or making friends in class and studying with them and maybe going to practice with them after, and those would be my friends. And like making friends like in other extracurricular activities, and that's just my friend group. And I didn't really understand what it meant to be a good friend, to be there for someone, what it meant to hang out with someone, and how how those things worked, and in conjunction with being in college, and as well as how to find my people that I want to be around without without coming on too strong. So that's something I really, really needed adjustment to, because being the extroverted person I am, I just didn't understand quite yet of how to use that extroversion in a college context to be ready. So that's something I really worked on, and it was tough for me. It was tough. Yeah, first semester was really, really rough for me because I really didn't know have any rules for myself to set, like any, because it's self discipline at college. I didn't set any boundaries. I didn't set any rules of this is who I want in a friend. This is what I want to do. Uh, and because of that, I let people run me over sometimes, thinking that they were my friend, and that stuck around for at least a good part of the year. And I think I really adjusted to college my not even my near the end of my first year, when I ended a pretty toxic friendship. Um, and I was able, from that friendship, I was able to find people that this person had also hurt and make that my new friend group. And even though, and that friend group is always with me, it's been my day ones. And even though I'm constantly adding new friends and have making new connections, like those friends will always have a special place in my heart. So, um, without getting too deep into it, I I was so this person was basically in kind of a relationship a little bit with someone back in high school, but then something happened, and now and she at the time was questioning if she wanted that relationship at all, and I was just being there for her, like, hey, maybe you just need to take time for yourself. And then that evolved into being um like a relationship for a time, and then it wasn't a relationship after a time because of how she was feeling, and then it became a friendship, and I was okay with it, and then it became a little bit of a controlling friendship. And then by that point I was like, if I'm not seeing the rewards within a person that's benefiting me for my future self, and I'm just leveling myself down to what I know I can be better at, then what am I doing? College is a door of open opportunities. And I'm not saying to cut anyone off because they're amazing right now. Don't do that. But if someone is hurting you, or you think that's all you can do, really check in with yourself and really circle yourself with people that will support you. Join other clubs like I did. And within those times, things will get better for sure. And yeah, in college, adjustment is different for everybody, but I would say like near end of first semester.
Well, that makes sense, and yeah, but I like that one that you were able to get yourself out of that toxic relationship, but that you were able to connect with some of those who may have been hurt similarly, and to create a new friend group, which I think takes, yeah, dedication. That one, that you're able to get yourself, let's say, out of that situation, but that you were able to work to try to help out those who have also been impacted. So I'm so glad that, Lisa, that you yeah, shared that piece of information with us.
Yeah, and I'm sharing it. I can't wait that people are going to take things from this podcast that will help them in the future. Um, but yeah, uh, whatever college you go to, you want to set yourself up from the beginning, and I would say like seeking that higher advice, finding those people that will support you are going to be very beneficial. As a provost said before to my mom, and she keeps repeating it back to me when I was a freshman. Uh, that really defines what college is show me your friends, I show you your future. That means that you need to keep a good circle of friends around you. And if your circle of friends is not going to be who you want to be with in 5 years, then you might as well just slowly distance yourself without cutting anyone off, and to find newer ones. Because if you for real think that you're going to find helpful people in the future, you will. And those people will be drawn to you. And then the people that won't be who you want to be in the future will just find other people, you know? And it's not malicious or anything. It's just how life works, and sometimes you want a higher quality of life that works for you.
Well, I think that's so great that you were able to have that information passed down from your mom, who's passed down from a provost. I mean, that knowledge, especially from an educator, I think is just is always so powerful. And I just think that there's no truer statement than what you just said.
Yeah, I try to be wise as all I can. Yeah.
But yeah, and so let's like continuing on though. Of course, now you are a junior, and so what are some of the other organizations that you've been able to take part of? Like, I definitely know, of course, you're part of the President's Leadership Program, which I think is truly one of the highlights of the university.
Other organizations I'm involved in. I mean, I recently have picked up club field hockey, which is like games here and there. So it's not that competitive, but it's something else that I have when I don't have my frisbee practices on my Mondays, no, not Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. So I have field hockey practices on Mondays and Thursdays. So it's like something else to do. So 4 days out of the 7, I'm doing something, and then and it's really works out for me. So that's one. Another one is, I think I mentioned briefly, is PLP ambassadors, which is like a bridge off of the PLP program where we're helping out with PLP events. We help with speaker events series, which is basically these events where we get some highly successful leaders and distinguished people coming into our buildings and giving speeches on how their leadership is, how they lead. And it's just very helpful for PLP students to understand, or maybe they have papers to write regarding speaker events, or they want to use an interesting concept or quote from these events. It's a way for PLP students to be more acclimated to different leaders. We had chief of staff actually speak for us. The mayor of Newport News came. We've had President Kelly come for us. And it's always interesting to hear these people and to help assist with these events. Recently, I know a couple of the ambassadors have helped out with a couple of veterans visiting and that sort of thing. And we also have like a leadership conference coming up in January that several are helping in. Not sure how my schedule looks, but I hope to be there. But yeah, that's one of my main involvements that I definitely do for the PLP program.
And for those who are tuning in who may not be familiar with the President's Leadership Program, are you able to let them know a little bit about the program and what makes it so special and so important to the university?
Okay, so Presidential Leadership Program is basically a CNU program. It's um, a highly prestigious program at Christopher Newport University that really helps people understand themselves and how they lead, even though they don't think they lead that way. So there's discussions about followership, leadership, etc. It's a program that really gets students to be able to self-reflect on their own past experiences as leaders. Um, some of these some of these things are actually of leadership instances can be attributed back to when we have, for some PLP students, have leadership adventure, which happens in the summer. So this is happens also during orientation week. So CNU students, if you didn't know, actually go to the CNU for orientation and their leadership week a couple weeks earlier before the start of school. And there are things called orientation leaders and facilitators that give students a tour of the campus, as well as the chance to meet potential people that they'll be seeing later um, when they come to CNU in the fall. And through that program and being a facilitator, I was one time a facilitator. You get to engage in fun activities like we had one time we had like a relay race of some sort. We had some like a dancing competition, a whole slew of events where students are working with their fellow classmates that will be coming into the program with one another in order, and that would be their experience to what it was like to be in that leadership position, because everyone will be in there. So not only you get a fun adult summer camp, you also get experiences with highly talented people that PLP accepts. And with that, you also get the ability to have access to a lot of the service sites. So if you're interested in serving others in the community, PLP has connections with hospitals, schools, Habitat for Humanity, I believe. A lot of these opportunities for students to really broaden their scope and be able to continue to serve and continue to develop their sense of self of being a leader. And with being in part of the President's Leadership Program, not only you get scholarship, you also get the ability to actually be a part of, like, you get to choose your classes first, and that can be a trouble when you're at CNU. So it's a big thing when you want to go to CNU, and you get housing and such like that. So I would definitely recommend applying to PLP if you are interested in CNU, as well as coming for an interview. You won't regret it. But that's some of the things that PLP does. It's a really good program. I've learned a lot about myself as a leader, and I've become a better person and a leader myself through that program.
I love that. And when did you first learn about the President's Leadership Program, or was that one of the things that you learned before heading to the university?
Honestly, I saw a leadership program, and because I've been a leader in multiple organizations at Osborne High School, I decided to just apply. And because what's the worst that could happen? Yada yada yada. Maybe a scholarship would be good to have, and I really didn't think nothing much of it. I didn't really explore it until I got to campus and learned more about the Presidential Leadership Program, and from there, I was like, maybe I want to come here. So,
Well, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, continuing to go forward too. Would you say that I know that you mentioned, like I said, some of the friendships that you've made while at the university alongside some people that you knew prior that attended, but would you say that you've really been able to branch out and to try new things while being a part of Christopher Newport?
oh, absolutely. CNU has a lot of opportunities for people to branch out, so which is makes it really cool for me to be a part of, because there's service opportunities, there's athletic opportunities. CNU has one of the top D3 programs in the nation for sports and athletics. So being able to be a part of a winning culture has really been a driving force for a lot of the students, because we carry that with us. Not even when you're not on a sports team, people carry the attitude that we are winners and we can still do this. And yeah, they've really, I mean, without seeing you, I don't think I would be on any sort of sports team, any sort of have some sort of scholarship. I wouldn't be able to really connect with people as much as I thought I would. But through PLP, I was able to meet some of my friends as well, because being a part of PLP is like sort of like a mini family, and they situate you with closely with other people in PLP, and because of that, you're now in an environment of PLP, and it's really enjoyable for people to meet one another from PLP, and it's amazing.
That's extraordinary, and I'm so glad, like I said, that the university has so many of these resources that are available to help you, and that you're taking full advantage of them.
Yeah, for sure. You again, you gotta whatever university you decide to go to, it's definitely good to really explore the resources and do your research. Christopher Newport University is one of those public schools um, that seems private and has a lot of other resources, especially because it's in a localized area. And yeah, I would just highly recommend looking for those resources when considering college options.
Awesome. Well, switching gears, yeah, entirely. I did want to actually take a moment and ask. So you mentioned during your introduction that you are a very big fan of the TV show, or should I say, franchise Ninjago, and so I want to learn all about that and what first got you started, with your interest in the show.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ninjago. I mean, I wake up to Kai a lot of times, so I have no shame in that. But so my interest, as most people, I would say, started back in when I was around 11, 12, when the pilot series really came out. When it's basically, for those who don't know, without going into detail, there is there I'm going to start with the beginning and then where the story picks up and then go into why I really enjoyed the show. So long before time had a name, there was this spinjitzu master who we'll learn more. He had so much other lore later, but there was a spinjitzu master and he created Ninjago, and he has two sons. One son was a really good son, and the other son was turned evil. And he told them to, and he created the world of Ninjago using four weapons: Scythe of Quakes, Nunchucks of Lightning, Sword of Fire, and Shurikens of Ice. Using those weapons, he created Ninjago, and he told his sons to protect them so no one else can, because no one could handle their power at once, and they can't get into the wrong hand. So then he passes away, and the sons argue and fight that because the evil one wants to possess all the weapons. The evil one lost, it was banished to the underworld. His name is Lord Garmadon. The younger brother won and hid the weapons, and that's where we pick up with Kai, who's sort of the main character ish, who is this kind of like a brash individual. He's like Raphael from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, except he's a little bit more controlled with his rage. So his sister actually gets kidnapped because he had to like raise his own sister, sort of, in a situation by Lord Garbadon, who was Sensei Wu's brother. And now there's this whole conflict where Kai wants his sister back, but he can't get there if unless he allows Sensei Wu to help him. And because Kai's arrogant and he's a little bit brash, he doesn't want his help. So he has to show him like that with this new art named Spinjitzu, and that he won't even last. So he allows him to train. And I think and then there's one main scene that says that you can look up on YouTube that you must finish the tea before you complete this training course before I finish my tea, and if you don't, you fail. First try, he just let him drink the tea and he failed, and he had to try it the next day again without doing anything. Kai failed over and over again, and then eventually he got there. And then when he asked, "Oh, now I can learn Spinjitzu because I completed the training course," and then Wu was like, "You already have." So he had no idea, and that's sometimes how life works. So one thing I really liked in Ninjago, first of all, it has gone on for a really long time, and there has to be a reasoning behind it, right? There there is a lot of lessons that Ninjago teaches, even adults. Like it's insane how much. Yeah, there's fighting. Yes, there's conflict, but this is not any ordinary kids show. Like they cover a lot of themes that adults like certainly should like look at. They cover, I mean, the interest of the heart. They cover that series a lot. They cover bullying a little bit, how to deal with bullying, how to deal with friendships, how to deal with stuff, how to the right thing to do, like being brave. That's one thing they teach. A ninja never quits. That's one of their main things and main themes, and that's something that is very, very powerful. It because some of those shows have dark places where people go to, and and just the wisdom of it all has really been fresh. So again, um, but yeah, that's where the show picks up, and I think Kai is one of my favorite characters from when I was younger because he reminded me a lot of who I was. I mean, I was arrogant, I was angry sometimes. I do have a kind of a spark at times, and sometimes I didn't understand that you just have to fail a couple of times in order to be where you want to be. And the thing that the show really drives home is like you always have to continue to not quit no matter what the situation is. And even though and another theme that I just realized, destiny. Sometimes you can't change everything that happens to you, no matter how much you want to change it. And if you let that go back and try to change something else, you're just going to be wasting your time, and you're just going to be stuck in the past like a ghost. If you guys see what I did there, but like that's sort of the point with why I really like the show. Apart from, I mean, they're ninjas, they're pretty awesome. They can do spinjitzu, which is a pretty awesome art, and it's continuing to grow. And now the kids that love Ninjago are getting Ninjago for their kids, and it's one of those main Lego franchises that will be seeing for a long, long time, and it'll be like with the series of rivaled by DC or Marvel. Like it's one of those Lego themes that probably will always be there as long as there's conflict. And it seems like it's really, really there. And that's why I really enjoy the show. Watching it as a fan, I mean, there's a lot of other people that make their own fan fictions, but we don't talk about them. I mainly like the show for how the show is um, orchestrated because it still is really, really good, and it's also touching on other topics that are important today in today's community. Um, I mean, there's a lot of controversy also that I definitely will probably bring up too. Um, but as far as I know, it's Ninjago is changing with the times, and its creators have really shown that, and with their new series Dragons Rising, and they've really done a good job.
I love what what you were saying about what the show means to you and how it's related to your life and help provide you motivation. And and so for myself as someone who also really loves the show, I have my Lego set over here, but from Dragon's Rising. But for me, I feel like I completely agree with what you were saying, and I think another theme that it covers really well is that some of this movement, it happened before us and it'll continue happening after us, but that doesn't mean that we can't do our part too.
Yeah, I think that's one thing they really nailed down with Dragons Rising. I think, see, when I was watching this, like when I first heard Dragons Rising, if you guys don't know, so Ninjago is broken up into three separate parts, I would say. So there's the first 10 seasons, which is pilot from all the way from pilot to I would say the March of the Oni. That's the first 10 seasons. That's Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu. Um, they might have changed their minifigure styles in season 8 to match with the movie, but that still is part of that one series. Then they rebranded to Ninjago, which was from season 11, which is kind of fire with the fire snakes. I can't think of the season right. Fire snakes all the way to Crystallize, which was an amazing season, and they ended it that one series there. Then they decided to rebrand and do something a little bit newer because that was their 10 years anniversary of Ninjago, which is insane because nobody thought it would last that long and they would just move on to the next. And by the time they moved on to Chima, everyone wanted Ninjago. So by then they brought in another season, which was Dragons Rising. And this has been it had been talked about for years. How would a next generation Ninjago series look like? There was a lot of other, I know a lot of YouTubers that are Ninjago content creators were talking about it. Like, how would that even look like? How would they transition from these main ninjas that we've always known for the past years to the new generation? Because these actors are getting a little older, and how would that work out with characters? But I don't think any of those characters are going away anytime soon. But then there's Dragons Rising, where we get introduced to Eren, who is our generation, which is kind of like really cool because Eren. Another thing I will touch on is Eren. If you guys don't know, Eren is the new Kai. Well, he's Kylo Ren. If in let's just say that I'm not going to go into any detail, but he's Kylo Ren, right? But and then there's Sora. There's all these other newer characters now with new elemental abilities. So now it's growing, and that's supposed to be us looking up to the old Ninjago. So it's always built up on each other, like you said before, and I don't see it anytime slowing down anytime soon. There's another third season coming out very soon, and but yeah, and no matter what, it seems to me that they're coming up with some sort of situation, and really and have taken a big effort not to be repetitive every single season because every season's a surprise, and I'd never ever seen anything like Dragons Rising the way that it went. It was crazy, but I know a lot of people will continue watching.
Yes, I definitely know I'll be continue watching as well, and I'm so excited to see what they do, and especially considering the way that they took it as it being a sequel series and not a continuation. But in the same regard, I think it's a sequel in the best way possible, in that we actually get like a reset, so to speak, that we get to explore this new world. And so I'm loving every bit of it. In fact, I actually did my even though I didn't speak about this show, I'd done my master's thesis actually on television sitcoms and revivals. And during that same time, my free time, I'm watching, Ninjago Dragons Rising. I'm like, if I had to do this all over again, this would be an interesting case study, for a potential academic paper. But nevertheless, though, I mean, it's such a great show, great adventure, and I like that you were able to highlight that. And I want to allow for you to give a few minutes, like for us to sort of, I guess, geek out of Ninjago before we head back to your story in a moment.
All right, so the controversy is okay. So Cole is a character in Ninjago. He's an Earth Elementalist. Um, I can probably say this because it's not this is not a directly new season. So there is this season way back when in 2015 called Rebooted, where Jay, who at the time was dating Kai's sister Nia, and it's kind of like a talk on AI and their talks and who you should love. Nia goes to the computer and asks like who's their love interest. Cole shows up, right? That's where the controversy starts, sort of. And now she's like conflicted now because she's with Jay, but the computer says Cole, and now logic and emotion are kind of combining, and it made a whole situation where Cole and Jay didn't like each other for an entire season, for a entire 2 or 3 seasons, and it took until the world literally falling apart for Nia to fall back into love with Jay when they're about 16, 17-ish years old, respectively. So that was the start of it. And Cole was just there. He didn't really want to cause any trouble. He just was there. Then we go into season 13, where people saw Cole just holding hands with buddies, just doing that stuff, acting tough, But then people started questioning his sexuality and stuff, and that became like a whole thing. Like, these are Legos. Like, come on. Like, I get people are dating here and there, but like, don't what we shouldn't question his sexuality. We shouldn't accuse him of doing anything. And then there was a whole thing with Princess Vanya. Was he attracted to him? Was that a love? Do I ship it? Do I not? And it was a whole big deal. And I'm like, and even Cole said to himself, I don't even like her like that. We just met. So that was that. Fans left that alone. That was that. And then we get to Dragons Rising. And then the controversy just completely blows out of proportion because now there's this goblin that has the elemental power of fusion, which basically okay, so this is like a phone stand. This is a phone. He has the power to like fuse these two together and make like the phone stick to the phone stand, which is a really, really cool power, right? Now everyone's questioning because he's all being bros with the goblin. Are they going to kiss? Is Cole actually gay? And now it's been a whole thing of like, what's going to happen? And the controversy is, oh, turn Cole back into straight. Turn Cole back into what he was. But here's the thing of what I understand it as. I understand where people are coming from. Like, I want the old Cole back. But that's not like, if, like I said, we've grown up with the show. If the people that have watched the show, we shouldn't be able to dictate or accuse our favorite characters of doing things. Because if you think about it, they're another person too, like us. Like, I know it's easy to see people see themselves in a character and look up to them, but you got to allow some characters to be themselves rather than a picture of who they want you to be, and look up to a different character. There's plenty of other Ninjago characters to look up to. If Cole's gay, that's Cole's gay. If Cole's not gay, Cole's not gay. So the issue at hand that's being controversial is questioning characters' sexuality and trying to pin that on them in a negative light that reflects badly on the show. And do what you want with how you think about other sexualities, but like, do not take that away from certain characters, because there's a reason why Ninjago is doing this, because that making it more clear to audiences of the issue is probably the first step into solving the problem, is that we are avoiding the issue. And that it might be hard to understand that, like, even though people might want to avoid the issue, we should still be able to have those conversations. So, but yeah, that's the whole controversy. Everyone has their own opinion on it. I'm pretty open about it because I love Ninjago so much, but I don't want to pin any sexuality or anything on any person, and just let the show play out. And but yeah, but I understand where other people are coming from, and I try to remain as neutral as I can on the issue, because again, it's a very, very sensitive topic in today's day and age, and you don't want to upset anyone. So again, that's the issue at hand, and that's sort of the things creators are kind of working through and figuring out. But other than that, that's basically it.
And I like that in your explanation that you don't belittle one side or another. That you see where, yeah, where where one group might say one thing, another group might say another thing, but in the same regard of that, having that conversation, I think is so important, and to not just ignore it, but instead, you know, have a conversation. Like you're saying, there is a reason that we are here, and that you're able to, to navigate straight through it.
Yeah, and that's something in today's day and age that's very important. We need to be able to have those tough conversations in order to get anywhere. Like what I've learned in my interpersonal communication class, if we consistently avoid talking about an issue or addressing it, we're going to just continue doing it over and over again. Without properly addressing any situation, you can't go from it. I mean, take the ninja for example. Like, if Wu wasn't able to address the fact that he made a mistake, he wouldn't be able to fix it. Because if you don't think you made a mistake with telling them anything, because that man didn't tell anybody the ninjas anything sometimes when they needed to. But if he didn't accept that he made a mistake, there would be no forgiveness, and they wouldn't trust him to help them through the situations.
I love that analogy. And yes, Wu made several numerous mistakes, and I like how you acknowledge that as well. But nevertheless, I mean, if they're able to, to learn to understand him and to keep progressing, I mean, I feel like we can too.
Yeah, and again, this is why I love Ninjago so much, because this is like an underrated show that shows growth. Not everyone is right at the same time. There's no one right person here. Garmadon had his moments where he was right. I mean, I'm gonna go back to season 11. Like, he told Wu. Wu was the more mischievous one. He wasn't. Garmadon was more responsible. He was. You guys forget he was the older brother. So he told his brother not to go to the pyramid and check it out. But he's like, "Come on, don't you want to be a serpentine?" And he's like, "Okay, I'll go, but you can't do anything." They get caught. They violate a treaty, and then sooner or later, a sorceress tries to help Wu out, but you have to teach her spinjitzu, and then Garmadon tried to do not do it, and they went home free. And then Garmadon says, "I'm not going back to teach her." But Wu was more honest about it, taught her spinjitzu. That her spinjitzu helped her start a whole riot within the kingdom and try to take the throne. And it took Wu and Garmadon together to go into their father's house, steal forbidden scrolls to get more elemental powers in order to stop their mistake. And from that moment on, Garmadon was really it was bad, because now the snake blames Wu for that mistake, and now she had a thirst for revenge against Wu specifically that made the entire city and the entire and the ninja itself at danger. And it's about bringing it into the present moment now. Even our past mistakes will come up and be revived, but we have to learn how to accept them and apologize for them at some point. I don't know what I would do in Hit Wu's position either. It was a really tough situation to be in, and sometimes that's how destiny works. And sometimes you just gotta have to accept that fate and learn how to move on from it. And that's Ninjago is a reflection on how life works. It's not all rosy. So yeah.
I love that, yeah, explanation, and I mean, I think it just even fits in with the theme, of our discussion, and even in your personal life with, with college and navigating through these next steps. And so I know you mentioned earlier that one of your aspirations is to teach, and so I did want to ask for a moment. So, what do you plan to do? Within not just your upcoming senior year, and I guess even the final half of your junior year, but the journey ahead after college.
All right. So the plan is, I mean, I'm going to continue playing Ultimate Frisbee here for the rest of the semesters. Field hockey as well, but I also plan on I'll finish my minor, my leadership minor. I'll still be in PLP, my leadership minor by the fall of senior year. But as far as my other plans for MAT, I plan to be enrolling into the Masters of Teaching program here at CNU. I am working on my application, and that is due around February 1st. So I would know sometime within that next month or so. Um, Still figuring out logistics of how everything will work. Um, but yeah, by the end of this semester, I should be able to be doing that. But yeah, for my senior year, that's what it looks like. And then for my master's in teaching year, I would be taking master's courses, as well as I probably will get another year of eligibility to play another round of Frisbee again, but I'm not sure if I would have time. Because master's classes, they don't. I want to make sure I get that all sorted out, but I'll definitely be in the area. Um, if it's not with CNU, it'll be for a club team in the Tidewater area. And then the hope is after that 5th year, maybe possibly going back to maybe around Oaksville, Manassas, where I'm from, to teach, because those seem like solid areas for me to teach, where I think that I would be able to get a good base salary for teaching, and as well as the support I need. And then hopefully from there, I could start playing. I might start playing club first, if at all, if any frisbee, maybe some pickup ultimate here and there. Um, but I want to play for a club team there. And then if it is in the cards, trying out for the DC Breeze, or which is another pro team, or somewhere close to that area. I don't need. I think that's the only team close. I mean, I would love to play in places like Atlanta and stuff like that, but it's again, it's maybe not be in the cards for me, because I really want to focus on my career. You know, you can't be you can't make frisbee your main profession. Um, so having a teaching and a frisbee career on the side can work. Um, but yeah, but we'll see what happens again. Um, but yeah, that's basically my plan for sure. And then within 5 years, maybe leveling up to an administrative role. That would my leadership minor would definitely help with that process. So especially coming out with a master's in teaching, minor in leadership and communications, I believe that those classes will definitely set me up for making the case for being an administrator. But yeah, that's that's what it looks like for me.
That's amazing. And yeah, and first of all, I did want to say kudos to you for working on your applications for the was it the Masters in Teaching program, and what would you be interested in teaching?
I want to teach elementary ed. I want to teach first through sixth. Those kids, I worked at summer camps over the summer. I think those kids have really been the kids I really bonded with the most, and the kids that I really can make an impact with. And yeah, I believe that's the perfect age range where they're not going through too much, maybe like they haven't started puberty quite yet, but they're still a kid, so it's something around that age range would be nice. So yeah.
That's amazing. And I really love, like I said, that you're going in, like I said, to teaching that's just so outstanding. And I, of course, wish you the absolute best in that. I know for me, being a teacher was my childhood dream, and so this year throughout 2024, I've actually had a chance to teach at the college level, and so it has been the time of my life, and I've loved every a bit of it. I remember on my very first episode of this Tansson Talks show, my guest had asked me, what I wanted to do. It's like, well, teaching. I mean, that's my childhood passion. So now to say that I now have a year of experience doing that, I think it it really is like, wow, I was able to do it. So I'm so excited for you to be able to hopefully have that same experience after your first year.
Yeah, that would be very exciting for me, especially. I volunteered um, for an elementary school a little bit, and it's been very enjoyable, really working with those kids. And I would love to be able to be a suitable teacher for them in the future, for sure.
That's outstanding. And out of pure curiosity, since you mentioned that, of course, that you want to go somewhere potentially like closer to home, at least to start off, is that would you potentially be interested in like sticking around like the area around CNU, like when you're initially starting off?
For masters in teaching, you do have to when you're like starting your master's program, because you still do teach your master's year. Um, yeah, I'll probably be trying to teach somewhere around here. But I'm probably going to be working in as of right now, um, with all things considered, I would want to. I've talked to a lot of the higher ups in the master's program, and the best place for me right now would be in the York counties, rather than the Newport News Public Schools communities right now, which is about 10 minutes, 11 minutes away from school. So that's the place I'm going to be most likely working with when I get in. Um, but yeah, that's what it's looking like for now. Um, as far as Newport News public schooling goes, there are things that are being worked out quite right now. But yeah, I would definitely be working in the York system.
Okay. Yeah, so to bring this conversation, Liza, together, one thing that you had mentioned a few times earlier on uh, in the conversation is that growing up, you've been involved with a lot of youth groups, especially those like involved with your church. And so, would you say that that plays a major role within your life even now?
Well, yeah. Debbie Cowie, one of my youth leaders, she definitely helped build me into the person I am today, as well as my mom and dad, who made the decision to live in Manassas, Virginia, in that house, which was like only a 0.8 miles away from the church. They made sure that church was a significant part of my life. It was close to me, as well as being close to Round Elementary School, the other schools in the area. They made sure that those areas were closer to me in proximity so that I would be able to be raised by the church and elevated in that situation. Without grace, I wouldn't have been able to travel a lot of places. I mean, I've been on a lot of mission trips to in Winchester, um, Front Royal. I've been to North Carolina, even like I'm meeting a lot of people, learning how to communicate with one another. Um, well, yeah, and for our choir tours, I would go. We would live in the some college dorm. We would be touring in. I got to stay at JMU once for a tour. I got to stay at Virginia Wesleyan. And this was a way for me to get used to what it was like to be in a college dorm, and it was just a great experience for me to learn what it was like traveling and being with a group, sleeping. I mean, those trips prepared me a little bit of what it was like to be responsible on my own when I was like in 12 or 13 years old, um, for what I would do when I was 20 or 19. No, when I was 18, away from from all that. And now had to be responsible. So yeah, it definitely played a very huge role in my life, and I'm glad that it played the role that it did.
I'm so glad, and I'm so glad that you mentioned too that you're thankful for like your parents for for putting you in proximity to to church, to education, and to those resources that you need to help succeed and take you to where you are now. And listen, I've been absolutely loving this conversation, and I did want to ask: was there anything else that you wanted to potentially mention before we begin closing out this episode?
Yeah. There are a couple things that I do want to say. So again, my Insta is probably going to be on this episode anyway, so just give me a follow. And I am also holding a fundraiser. I'm like I said before, I'm a fundraising chair. If you would go to CNU Giving and then click Club Sports and give Men's Ultimate Frisbee a donation, that would mean a lot to me. It doesn't have. It could be $10. It could be a cent. It could be maybe 1,000 if you're that generous. But we would really appreciate it because that's how we travel to these tournaments. That's how we book hotels, and really being able to have the opportunity to do so would be great. We're also having a fundraiser if you're in the area at Plaza Azteca um, around January 25th from 5 to 10 p.m. If you go to the at Plaza Azteca and say, Around it's the one at Warwick. If you say, "Hey, I'm with CNU Ultimate Frisbee. I want to donate to their fundraiser." That would definitely help us out a lot. You'll be enjoying a good meal as well as with that, and yeah, that would be great. And then for sure, you can definitely keep following my Insta. There's going to be a lot of there's going to be a home tournament at CNU. If you are definitely in the area, you should definitely pull up. Um, we we have a lot of fun. But yeah, and then yeah, I'm very appreciative of this time that I've had. Talking to you, Brandon. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be 100th episode. Um, Shout out to my family, my mom and dad, my brother Nevin. Shout out to my coaches, for sure. My friends, David, Emily, Claire, Nick. I love you all, guys. Like, um, shout out to y'all, and shout out to Christopher Newport University. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. It wasn't easy, but I'm glad that I'm still here.
I love all of the amazing shout outs and everything that you have been working to do. And since this is episode 100, as you mentioned, so I want to ask, so what does it mean for you personally to be here to tell your story here on the show?
I mean, again, talking about who I am, talking about like a bigger story, then is just amazing to me. Because not a lot of people know. As extroverted as I used to be, not a lot of people know my story and how I've come to be. Talking about my passions. If you see me, you either just see reels of me doing crazy frisbee stuff, and then just see me on a random day with friends being quiet. And that's not who all I am. Actually, I'm pretty talkative. You can always talk to me. But yeah, it just means a lot to me, especially to be at episode 100 about and getting the opportunity to discuss my ideas on things and my opinions in an environment where I can, um, in a in an environment where will be shown. Oh, also shout out to I forgot to shout out the PLP office. Shout out Will Reddy, LG, the PLP fellows, all the directors, everyone that helped me get here still and convinced me to still be here and continue to um, support me and continue to be here.
I love that. And I love all, like I said, all your amazing shout outs. Surprised you didn't give one to Ninjago.
Oh yeah, Ninjago. Okay, if Ninjago sees this, it would be literally amazing. But shout out Ninjago and Vincent Trong, like voice actor for Ninjago. Shout out to them for sure. Dragons Rising. Um, Aaron, you've done a great job. Everyone part of the series, keeping it going. It's done a good job. I'll continue making it relevant as long as I can. That's for sure. Um, Sensei Wu, big shout out, big wise guy for sure. Um, and then, but yeah, thank you for giving those lessons and allowing me to talk about why and explore why I love you guys so much, but continue to grow, and we really appreciate you keeping up for now 13 years.
It truly is a legendary franchise.
Yes, for sure. Yes, for sure. And I'm glad to be living in it. And yeah,
But yeah, and I know you mentioned that was those tuning can follow you on Instagram. And are you actually able to let them know what your Instagram name is?
yes. So it is Nalin, Nalin, B Ballin. So B and then it's BAL and then there's a 1 and a 7 IN. 17 is my number. Nalin B Ballin is kind of a nickname that I've had for my piano teacher. It was Nalin Ballin, and then it was Nalin B Ballin later. So that's my handle. But yeah, um, for sure, I appreciate everything that's talked about here. But yeah,
Well, last but certainly not least, I want to allow for you to go ahead and close out episode 100 in 2020 in the year 2024 by listening, whether it's an inspirational thought, life lesson, or a special message, whatever the case may be. The floor is all yours to end this out.
All right. So, my message to anyone that might be watching this, and anybody in any situation, like you're not alone in anything that you're doing. Sometimes it's going to take a while to get to where you want to be. You're going to make a couple mistakes. You're going to make more than a couple. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, but it's all about keep going. I really didn't learn that until my second year, and I don't regret it. Sometimes your biggest mistakes are actually your biggest inspirations. Sometimes doors close and you have to open a window and let the air out. And I'm just really, really happy that a lot of the doors open for me to still allow me to be here. Don't ever give up on yourself. Never say anything's impossible, because now you're just shortcoming yourself. You can always continue to be your best self and always be accepting and kind to others. Sometimes things don't work out that way and you gotta change it up. But yeah, just keep working hard, dreaming. Things will work out, and keep a good set of people surrounded by you. And you'll be all set for life. And life is a process, and sometimes you just got to take what's coming at you as a present, because that's what it's called, the present. So just continue living in it and look ahead for the future and always have a plan. And yeah, I really appreciate this time with you guys. If you found this hour and 30-ish minutes very intriguing, I'd be honored. I try to be as interesting as I can. And but yeah, I really appreciate coming on here and talking to you, Brandon. I appreciate you having me on.
And like I said, the honor is all mine. I so appreciate everything that you've said, and I am so excited, like I said, for those to hear your story. And definitely, please keep in touch.
Oh, for sure. All right. Thank you.
Yes, and for those tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 100 of the Tansson Talks show. This is only the beginning as we continue on our mission to bring people together and tell the stories of others. I'll see you in 2025. Take care.